Have you ever had that feeling, that you're just going through the motions, that maybe there's something deeper to this whole life thing that you're somehow missing? Well, today we're going to dive into the work of Krishnamurti, a philosopher who really challenges us to find answers, not in some old book or by following a guru, but by looking right inside ourselves.
So Krishnamurti starts with a question that, honestly, it just cuts right to the bone. What are you really doing with your life? And look, this isn't about your job or what you've got planned for the weekend. It's a massive invitation to look at the very foundation of who you are. It's the kind of question that pops up in those quiet moments, right? When you're feeling a bit lost or confused. And this quote, it pretty much sums up his whole idea. The chaos, the conflict we see out there in the world, he says it's not separate from us. It's a mirror. It's reflecting our own inner state. So his whole proposal is that if we want to create a more peaceful world, we first have to take a journey into understanding ourselves. Okay, so if we're on board with that, where do we even begin? Well, the first step is to start questioning our own identity. I mean, really questioning it. It's about peeling back all those layers, all the labels and roles we've picked up, our jobs, our nationalities, our beliefs, and trying to see what's left underneath it all. According to Krishnamurti, this sense of self that we're so attached to, it's basically an illusion. It's not some fixed, solid thing. It's more like a bundle of memories, beliefs, and desires that we've collected over our lifetime. And the main job of this constructed self is to create a feeling of separation. There's constant sense of me versus the world. And this feeling of being separate, believe me, it has some pretty serious consequences. Krishnamurti says this is the root of our suffering. It shows up as loneliness, as anxiety about not being good enough, and that nagging, low-level feeling of dissatisfaction that just seems to follow us around. So, how do we get to know this self? Krishnamurti's answer is kind of surprising. He says the key isn't to go sit on a mountaintop alone or go on some silent retreat. Nope. It's in the mirror of our everyday relationships. The way you react to your partner, your boss, even a stranger. That's what reveals the patterns and the conditioning of yourself in real time. It's a lifelong process of just watching. Okay, so you've got this confused, conflicted self, right? And what's it always doing? It's always looking for a way out of its own suffering. And one of the most common, but he would argue misguided ways it does this, is by directly chasing happiness. And this is where Krishnamurti draws a really important line in the sand. The difference between happiness and pleasure. See, pleasure is that fleeting thing you get when you satisfy a desire, a great meal, a compliment, buying something new. But chasing pleasure, he says, just leads to dependency and, of course, the fear that you'll lose it. Real happiness, on the other hand, isn't something you can hunt down. It's a state of being that just shows up when you live a life of self-awareness. And this idea, man, it just flips our whole concept of joy on its head. He's suggesting that true joy isn't about getting everything we want. It's about moving beyond the wanting. It's that state that emerges in those rare, beautiful moments when the me and its constant chatter finally go quiet. But here's the kicker, the big paradox. If the self is the problem, then our go-to problem-solving tool, our own mind, our thinking, is completely useless here. Why? Because as Krishnamurti points out, our thinking is the very thing that built the self to begin with. And that leads us right to the source of our inner drama, our own thoughts. We tend to treat our thoughts like they're facts, like they're an objective report on reality. But Krishnamurti asks us to take a step back and see them for what they really are, just conditioned responses from our past. I want you to really consider this for a second. Every single thought you have is a product of your past. It's all based on your memories, your culture, your personal history. What that means is that thought can never be truly new or free. It's always, in a way, just a remix of what you already know. Let's break down how this actually works. An experience happens. Say, you see an amazing sunset. Instantly, thought kicks in and labels it from memory. That's beautiful. But right in that same split second, thought also creates the I who is having the experience. This I wasn't there before the thought. It's a mental construct that pops into existence in that very moment. So you see the loop here? If thought creates the separate I, the one that feels lonely and suffers, it makes sense that you can't use more thought to end that suffering. Trying to analyze your way out of sadness is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
it just creates more mental noise, more conflict. So if thinking our way out of it isn't the solution, then what is? Krishnamurti points us to a totally different capacity of the mind, a different way of seeing, that he calls pure awareness. So what's the difference here? Well, analysis, that's the self trying to fix itself. It's judging, condemning, trying to change things, which he says just doesn't work. Awareness, though, is something else entirely. It's just a simple, silent, non-judgmental observation. It's about watching your thoughts and feelings come and go, without getting tangled up in them, without calling them good or bad. And it's in that state of quiet observation that something really profound can happen. Real understanding doesn't come from forcing it, from thinking harder. It comes from stillness. It's in the silence between our thoughts that we can finally see things as they actually are, without the constant filter of our past.
Let's take a real-world example. Loneliness. Our usual reaction is to run away from that feeling, right? Distract ourselves. But what if we could just stay with it? Approach it with this non-judgmental awareness. Krishnamurti suggests it can actually transform. Loneliness, which is all about fear and isolation, can become aloneness, which is a totally positive state of feeling whole and complete in yourself.
Okay, so this all sounds great, but what does it actually look like in the real world? How does living from this place of awareness actually change our day-to-day lives? Well, for starters, your relationships completely change. Remember that mirror we talked about? It starts to reflect a whole new kind of inner clarity. When your interactions aren't being driven by the needy, fearful self anymore, they can finally come from a place of genuine connection and understanding. And this isn't just some abstract idea. It leads to real, tangible shifts in your life. I mean, imagine a love that's free from jealousy because it's not based on fear. Imagine working with others without being driven by what's in it for me. This is a whole new kind of intelligence where your actions come from a deep understanding, not just a knee-jerk reaction. And this brings us full circle, right back to Krishnamurti's central message. This inner work, it's not a selfish thing to do. He truly believed that personal transformation is the only real key to social change. When we heal the division inside ourselves, we can't help but contribute to healing the world. So we end where we began, but hopefully with a totally new perspective. Krishnamurti's teachings aren't just a philosophy you study, they're a way of life you live. So the final question isn't from him, it's for you. If you are the world, what's the first change you're going to make within yourself?